In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use Claude Cowork, even if you're a complete beginner with zero technical experience. I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know, from setting it up to connecting to the apps you already use. I'll show you exactly how it works with real examples. And by the end, you will have Claude Cowork set up, and it will start helping you save hours of manual work every single week. So let's get right into it. So before we dive in, I do want to quickly explain the differences between Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code, because a lot of people still seem to be confused. Claude Chat is a web version. It's great for conversation, answering questions, and helping you think things through, but you're still the one who's doing the actual work. Claude Cowork is what we're focusing on today. It's the desktop app that doesn't just give you answers. It actually executes tasks for you. It can access your local computer, read and write files, connect to your apps, and get real work done, even when you're not there. Claude Code is a more advanced tool. It can do more and build more, but it does have a steeper learning curve. Claude Cowork is a better place to start, especially for beginners. So the simplest way to think about this is Claude Chat tells you what to do, and Claude Cowork actually does the work for you. Alright, so the first step is to download and install Claude Cowork. We could do that by coming to this website, claude.com/download, and you'll be able to download it for your operating system. So I'm using Mac, so I can just click on download for Mac OS. And keep in mind that you do need a paid plan for Claude in order to use Cowork. So if you still need to set that up, you can just click on Try Claude. You can sign into your account, and then you'll be able to set up your paid plan there. So next, let's open up the file. So to install it, we can just double click on the file and just drag this into the folder, and that's how you install Claude. So I already have this installed, so I can just come down here and click on Claude Desktop, and then you see the screen right here. And on the left-hand side here, you'll see Chat, Cowork, and Code. So this is where you can toggle between the different modes. And you want to make sure that Cowork is selected. So next, let me walk you through the main tabs so you know exactly what everything does before we start using it. So here we have New Task. So New Task is where you start a new working session with Claude. There's a search button here on the top, and this lets you find any past tasks or conversation that you've had. And this is really useful once you've been using it for a while and you want to recall a past conversation. Project is where you can keep everything organized. So when you start a new project, you can name your project. Let me just go example project, and let's create a new project here. So a project is like your own specific dedicated workspace where it will always remember how things are done. So you don't have to keep repeating the same context in every conversation. And then next we have scheduled. So this is where you can set up tasks to run automatically. And then we have customized. So in the customized tab, we have skills and connectors. So let's look at skills. So skills are basically reusable playbooks. So instead of having to explain how you want something done every time, you can set it up once and trigger it with a / command. And then Claude will know how to run it the same way every single time. And next, let's look at connectors. So connectors is where you can connect Cowork to the different apps that you already use. And by default, Claude can only see your local folder. So connectors opens it up to your entire workflow. So let's come back here. And then we have dispatch. So dispatch lets you control your Claude Cowork from your phone when you're away from your computer. So your computer still does the work, you're able to control it remotely. And before we move on, let's come down here to click on your account name and let's go to settings. And let's go to capabilities. There are a couple of settings worth mentioning before we move on. The first one is under memory. You want to make sure that both memory features are enabled. This is what allows Cowork to remember your preferences and feedback across different sessions. And then we can come down here and we want to make sure that the AI-powered artifacts is turned on as well. And this will allow Cowork to produce better outputs instead of just plain text. Now that you know your way around the interface, let me show you what Claude Cowork can actually do. We are going to cover 7 capabilities, and I will show you exactly how each one works. The first one we are going to talk about is local file access. This is the foundation. So Claude Cowork can create, edit, and organize files directly on your computer. And this is a big deal because Claude Chat, like we spoke about earlier, lives on the web. It has no access to your machine whatsoever. With Cowork, it's working with your actual files. So let's say if you want Claude Cowork to help you organize your files on your computer, we can come here and click on Work in a Project, and then select the folder that you want to be worked on. So for this example, I'll just go with Downloads, click on Allow, And this is what my current downloads folder looks like. It's just a bunch of like different random files. So now I want Claude Cowork to help me organize it. So we can come here and then we can switch up the mode to either Sonnet or Haiku. I'll just go with Sonnet for now. And let's type this prompt in. So we're going to say look through this folder and reorganize everything into themed subfolders based on what each file actually is. If anything looks like clutter or temporary files, move those into a separate folder called potential deletions. Everything else goes into categorized folders. And then let's click on let's go. And then you'll see that Claude is going to start working on it. Let's click on allow. And on the right hand side is where you'll see the progress. So now that it says now I have a clear picture of everything, let me set up a plan and execute it. And then you're going to see everything done. Here's a summary of what happened. These are like the summary of my files, and these are like the new folders that was created. And here are the ones that are left untouched. So let me open up my download folder again, and all the random files are organized in the respective folders. So this was one practical use case of how to use Claude Cowork to get organized. Next, we're going to talk about persistent memory. This one is simple, but it's important. Every time you correct Cowork or give it feedback, it actually saves into a file on your computer and it remembers it the next time. So the more you use it, the better it gets at working the way you want without you ever having to repeat yourself. So that's something that's really good to know. So next, let's talk about connectors. So let's come to the Customize tab and let's go to Connectors. So connectors are what allows it to connect to the tools that you already use. So we can come here to click on the plus button, click on Browse Connectors, and you can basically connect Claude Cowork to any of the apps that you already use. For example, Google Drive, Google Calendar, Gmail, there's Notion, there's Figma, Canva, Slack. So any apps that you already use, you can connect it here. So for this example, let's connect Gmail. So we click on this plus icon, and then you can just sign into your Gmail. And then after you sign in, you'll see Gmail here in the connectors. You click on it, you're able to see the permission here on the right-hand side. So for read only, that means Gmail can only read the files and they cannot make any like changes. And then you can review the permissions here. And typically for read-only tools, I will always allow permissions. These are always allowed. And under write and delete tools, for example, create a new draft email in the authenticated user's Gmail account, I will leave it at needs approval, as well as the rest. So let's go ahead to come here to click on connectors again, the arrow button, browse connector, and let's also connect Google Calendar. That's a very common one, and also sign into your Google account. Now after you connect it, you will see it appear here under the connectors. You can click on it, and then you can also review the permissions tab here. So same thing for read only, I will always allow, and for any write and delete tools, I will request approval for them. So let's come back to the main screen and let me show you how to set up your email assistant. So let's come to new task. So I'm going to say summarize my unread emails and meetings for the day. Let me go with that and let's click on let's go. And then you'll see that it's searching for the Gmail threads and also looking at my calendar events. And then when it's done, you will see the summary of the unread emails. And also it's going to tell me if I have any meetings today, and it will tell me the most action-worthy items that I have to reply to. And you can also ask it to create, let's say, a calendar invite. So we can say create a calendar invite for an onboarding call with Derek at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So I'm just going to go with this and I'm just going to send it. And on the bottom here, you'll see that it's created a calendar invite. You can click on allow for this task. And then the calendar invite has been created. And here's the details of the meeting. And the person is going to receive an email notification with the invite. And on my calendar, you will see the event here scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. So that's just a couple ways of how you can use this to better your workflow. So next, let me show you how to set up your scheduled task. So let's come here and click on scheduled. And this is where you can set up tasks to run automatically. So scheduled tasks can only run while your computer is awake. So if you want Claude to prevent your computer from going to sleep, you will want to enable this. So let's click on new task. And let's create our scheduled task. So for the name, I would just say email summary. And for the description, I would just say daily email summary. And in the details, I would just say check Gmail and summarize my unread emails, highlight anything that's urgent. And over here, I would just leave it because we are not working in a specific folder. For the model, we can just select either sonnet or haiku. I'll just go with sonnet. And for frequency, we can say daily. And then we can set a time. So let's just use 9 a.m. as an example. And then when you're done, just click on save. And then you'll see your email summary daily task here. It's going to happen every day at 9 a.m. So we can click on it. We'll see all the details here. And if you want to edit the instructions again, there's an edit button here. That's where you can modify the instructions. And we can also run it now to test it. So we can just click on run now. And then you'll see the scheduled task email summary started. And on the left-hand side is where you can see the scheduled task. Right here under schedule, you'll see email summary. We can click on it. And then you'll see that the task is being run right now. So every day at the time you set, the scheduled task is going to run. So that's an example of a scheduled task. Next, we're going to talk about skills. So let's come here to customize, and then let's click on skills. So skills basically lets you save a task as a template. So instead of having to type out the same instructions every time, you can just set it up once and trigger it with a / command. And to add a skill, you can just click on the plus button here. You can either browse skills or create your own skill. So let's click on browse skills. And these are the different skills that you're able to download and use. So let's say if we want to go with brand guidelines, we could just click on the plus button and then you have added the skill. And let's close this, and then you should be able to see that skill right here, brand guidelines. And if you want to create your own skill, you can click on the plus button here, click on browse skills, and then you can add the skill create a skill. It is meta, it's basically a skill that you can use to help you create skills. I already have that skill installed here. And to use it, we can just come back here and just click on / and then pick out the skill. And let's say if we go with skill creator, click on let's go. And then it will load the skill and it will basically walk you through how you can create your own skill. So next we're going to talk about projects. So let's click on projects here. And these are separate workspaces inside of your Claude Cowork. So if you're using it for business and also your personal stuff, you can keep those separate by having different projects. And a project keeps everything contained. The task, the context, the preferences, everything is contained in that specific project. So the longer you work in the specific project, the smarter it gets. It remembers how you like things done, what formats you use, and what you have corrected in the past. That knowledge builds over time. It will feel like an assistant who really knows your business. Next, we're going to talk about dispatch. So dispatch lets you send tasks to Cowork from your phone, even when you're away from your computer. So you can think of it as like a remote control for your desktop. You send the task from your phone, and Claude Cowork handles it automatically. So let's say you're out and you need something done before a meeting. You can pull out your phone, send the task, and by the time you're back at your desk, it's already done. So that's it for this video. You now have Claude Cowork set up and know exactly how it works. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe. I'll be posting more videos on Claude Cowork and also Claude Code. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Hope to see you in the next one.